I hope you're having a great day. Well, for the longest time, we've been getting questions about South Indian food, about certain dishes which are prepared in the north of India, whether they are good probiotics, whether those foods make you fat, whether those foods cause acidity, whether those foods cause bloating, and all of these issues. So we need to understand that it goes back years and decades, and civilizations for the longest time have used fermentation as a way of preventing foods from being perishable. So as the climate gets warmer, certain foods cannot preserve, and hence they use a process which is very natural called fermentation. So in fermentation, there are certain organisms that get cultivated that do not allow certain bacteria to spoil the food. So fermentation has existed in civilizations for years and years. And yes, it comes with health benefits for your gut when it's used the right way, when it's prepared the right way, and when it's eaten the right way. So when you look back down into South India, which has idlis and dosas, and you look at some states across India where you have things like kanji, when you have fermented rice, when you have fermented lentils, you have things like dhoklas, you have things like uttapam. All of these are fermented foods. And for years, they've kept the gut healthy. And now we get into a habit of blaming certain foods which cause bloating and acidity, but we don't look to see that our digestive systems have become so weak that they can no longer digest or handle fermented foods, which was once something extremely healthy for all of us. So today we're running and chasing options which are completely Western. Not that it's a problem, but we keep chasing these things, ignoring what we have in our own country, what our grandmoms, what our parents prepared for us in our own kitchens at home, which took care of most of our gut problems. So we have kombucha today, we have tempeh, we have miso, we have sokra, we have kimchi, we have probiotic supplements, probiotic pills, all of these things. And then yes, we have dosas, and we have idlis, and we have uttapam, and we have dhokla, and we have kanji, and we have fermented rice, and we have curd, which is pure, and we have so many things which are natural. You know, everything that we see in the West or beyond the pastures that we stand on isn't always better for you. Sometimes, we always say the grass is greener on the other side. Sometimes we got to just water the grass that we're standing on and make it greener ourselves, instead of always trying to search and seek and find. Sometimes we're standing amidst, everything that we need for human health and for our bodies and for everything we need, but we're just too busy looking elsewhere. And we forget and we become blind to what we naturally have in our staple diets across. So now, there are a couple of pointers when it comes to all these foods which are fermented. Basically, when you ferment, you have certain bacteria which are produced, which are extremely beneficial for your gut. Your gut health is so important. Can't tell you, we have 1 in 2 people who come in with gut issues every day: acidity, bloating, indigestion, autoimmune disorders, which revolves around a leaky gut syndrome or a poor functioning gut. You heal the gut, you heal the syndrome. But we're constantly looking at searching for medicines that keep suppressing the symptom, living with lifelong medicines, never getting to the root cause of trying to improve our gut health. We learn to live with acidity because we have antacids. We learn to live with bloating, and we keep taking, things that help us with our bloating. But how about getting to the root cause and finding out, why isn't my gut functioning the right way? Now, all these fermented foods are rich in B vitamins. And we live with this constant myth that, hey, I'm low in B12, let's keep popping supplements. Vegans keep popping B12 supplements because they believe that they're going to be deficient in B12. You have to understand that if you have a proper functioning gut, you will not have a B12 deficiency even if you're vegan. We have to understand that B12 revolves around an intrinsic factor in your stomach. And you have to have the right amount of microbiome in your gut, because most of the synthesis of B12 happens in your intestinal walls in your gut. You can go on popping B12. I know so many people who pop B12, their levels go up and then they come down again, because your problem is with assimilation and absorption in your gut. So you keep on taking B12, your levels come down. You keep on taking B12 and it keeps coming down. The idea is fix your gut. Fix your gut with lifestyle, food, dietary changes, and all of that stuff. And you need just a little bit of B12 to maintain good levels. B12 is a whole different video which we're going to talk about, because it's a whole myth about getting more B12 from foods, and non-vegetarian foods have a lot of B12. I'll tell you that most of our non-vegetarian clients have B12 deficiencies and they're eating non-veg. So you see there's not much of a correlation. It's all about your gut. You have a clean gut, you'll synthesize B12 in the right amounts and your levels will be absolutely fine. So fermented foods are rich in B vitamins. They're rich in folic acid, they're rich in vitamin K. It's got a small amount of protein that helps with synthesis as well in your gut. When you're having fermented foods, the combination is proper. So if you're just eating plain idli, you're just eating plain dosa, that's not the way it was designed to be done. There has to be a combination with a chutney or a pickle, or the way it was designed traditionally, or a sambar. So for example, white rice alone is going to spike your blood sugar levels. It's not good for you. But you combine white rice with a lentil and vegetables, or just a lentil, it becomes a complete protein. So you have to understand that food has to be had in combinations which are good for your body. Everything works in combinations in the human body, because when everything goes through your digestive system, it's using a little of everything to synthesize and be absorbed into your system. So eating a plain dosa because you don't want to have a coconut chutney because you think the coconut in the chutney is going to make you fat, that's ignorance. What you need to do is not overeat your coconut chutney and make your dosa and idlis the right way. Today, if you look at the way dosas are made, it is full of oil. That was not the traditional way of making dosas. Some people even make dosas without oil, completely without oil. But you go to a roadside joint and you have people who are satisfying human greed and human stupidity. So you have a Szechuan dosa, which is fried crisp and stuffed with a whole load of bottled sauces, and it's spicy and it does more damage to your gut than good. And you have fried idlis and deep fried idlis and all of that stuff. So you see, there's human stupidity and then there's human wisdom. Now, which one do you want to choose before you start blaming the food and making the food your enemy, when you become your own enemy with your thinking and the way that you consume food? So traditional foods cooked the traditional way will be good for your health. Fermented foods increase the bioavailability of minerals in your food. You see, you can go on popping supplements, you can go on eating organic food, but if you don't have the right gut health, it is in your gut, you have the right amount of bacteria, good and bad, that allows the absorption and assimilation of all your nutrients. Most people are eating great food, but they have deficiencies because the problem's in the gut. They're not absorbing. You think you're eating good food, but your body's assimilating it differently because your microbiome isn't complete. So when you eat fermented foods, you start populating the bacteria in the right proportion. And when you have bacteria in the right proportion, it works for you. So you have good and bad. When the bad bacteria grows more than the good bacteria, sometimes that's called candida, sometimes that's called thrush. But the bad thing about bad bacteria overgrowth is it needs sugar to survive. It needs sugar and simple carbohydrates to survive. So all those cravings that you keep battling for, you keep craving for sugar, you keep craving for something sweet, it's your bad bacteria overgrowth. It's a living organism. It needs food. The food it needs is sugar, and that's the message it's going to send to your brain, and that's why you crave only sugar. So sometimes you can't just go on fighting this craving. You got to clean out your gut. You got to reset your gut, decrease the amount of good bacteria, repopulate your microbiome, and then the cravings automatically reduce. A clean body craves clean, natural, raw food. An unclean body and an unclean gut will crave all the junk, anything that has sugar, anything that has salt. Now let's talk about pickle as well. Because we look at sakra, we look at, kombucha and all of these things which are great for you. But in India, we have pickle. Now, the bad thing about pickle is, why have we made it an enemy? Because we've changed the way we make it. Before, it used to be made with black salt or rock salt. Today, we make it with refined salt and too much of salt. It's floating in oil, which is refined oil, full of trans fats, completely low on nutritional value. And then we say, oh, pickle is bad. But your homemade pickle is never going to create a problem with your weight or with your blood pressure, because your mom or your grandmom used the right kind of salt, the right quality oil, and the right proportion, and we didn't overeat it. A little pickle was used to flavor your food. You see, it's all about combinations, satisfying your taste so that your brain gets satisfied, and we eat only exactly what we eat. But today, our food is crap. It doesn't have the right proportions, and that's why the brain keeps on asking for more and more and more until it gets satisfied, because taste is real to the human brain. Until your brain gets that signal that, hey, I'm satisfied, it will not stop the cravings. So you look at combinations of foods. The second thing is the lactic acid and the bacteria that are found in fermented food can also balance the pH levels in your gut and your intestinal walls. This is where all the magic of assimilation and absorption happens. Your omega-3 gets created in your gut. So you can be popping all the fancy omega-3 supplements that you buy on your overseas trips in the US or UK or whatever it is. But if you don't have the right gut health, it's useless. When you have the right gut health with the right bacteria, you synthesize omega-3 in your gut. So the intestinal walls in your gut is where all the magic happens. Your immunity starts within the intestinal walls in your gut. So every time you bloat up, it's all the bad bacteria that's catching on to gas, holding it in. So sometimes your stomach comes right out and after a while it goes right in. These are symptoms that your body gives you, symptoms that the body is doing the right thing at the right time. If you listen and you make changes in your lifestyle, these symptoms will not manifest into something which is more serious, which is why it's so important to live mindfully. So again, eat your South Indian food, eat your fermented food. I think the easiest probiotic that people can have is fermented rice. It's so simple. If you have rice in the afternoon, you take out about 2 tablespoons of cooled white rice, you put it in a little clay pot, cover it with water, keep it overnight. In the morning, you eat the rice and you drink the water. It is one of the most powerful, natural, inexpensive probiotics that you can ever have. And it just cleans out your gut completely, and you notice changes within your gut within a couple of days of doing this. So depending on where you're local, which state you're local in, every state has something which is a probiotic in the wisdom of their traditional diets. You want to get back to that, because you're not going to find your probiotic in McDonald's and KFC and all the junk food and all the cheap food that you keep eating. Nope, there are no probiotics over there. The probiotics are going to be found in the wisdom of your staple diet. And that's how we got to live. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.